Hi there, Kurume back with yet more car talk, and today I'll be looking at Havaal. For those who may not know, Havaal is the SUV brand for GWM, namely Great Wall Motors. And in this video, I will not be delving too much into pricing and features of the models which I'll mention, but I'll rather be focusing on the implications of long-term ownership, because South Africa is a country where people generally tend to own cars above and beyond the prescribed maintenance and service plans. So people want to rest assured that if they do go for the specific cars, they will not be going out of pocket once the service and warranty lapses. So stay tuned and let's talk Havaal. So what's the big deal with Havaal? Havaal is quite disruptive. You look at the Jolion and you look at the H6. These cars undeniably offer you great value for money. You look at the specs you get relative to the price and it's just mind-blowing. And it's no surprise that people are starting to buy into it, similar to how they started buying into your Hyundais and your Kias. I think now it's shifting more towards your Havaal, which is Chinese, and people have a lot of things to share about Chinese cars, given that the Havaal doesn't have a long-standing track record when it comes to reliability. But I think for you to be able to judge the car properly, you need to look at the key things. For me, it's the engine, transmission, suspension, and of course the electronics. And I've had a look at the engine. I know the Jolion comes with a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine, and then the H6 comes with a 2 liter turbocharged engine. Then with reference to transmission, I know there's a 6-speed manual available for the Jolion and a 7-speed dual clutch. For the H6, I know of the 7-speed wet dual clutch transmission that's available. And interesting fact, it actually won the honor of top 10 transmissions in the world in 2017, December. To say. So I think with that, it definitely warrants respect. Then we fast forward to suspension, and I see that the models, they come with a front McPherson suspension and a rear multi-link suspension, which is, I think, quite comforting in the sense that McPherson has been around for quite some time and they've been building suspension for as long as I can remember. One of the best in the industry. So I think with that being said, you're less likely to have any issues with your suspension for a very long time. And in the event that you do start to run into issues, because at the end of the day, cars are subject to wear and tear, you may have to replace a thing or two. You are rest assured that you will be able to get parts because McPherson has been around for a long time. Then, of course, we then go to electronics. I mean, a lot of people would say, you know what, all cars will give you, cars which have electronics will eventually give you issues in the long term. So I don't really have anything negative to say about Havaal, but I think it's worth giving them the benefit of the doubt. So at this point, I'm sure you're asking yourself, okay, so what am I getting at? It seems I don't have anything bad to say about the engine. I don't have anything bad to say about the transmission. In fact, given that it won an award, it's definitely saying, you know what, this is a car that's well worth considering. And in the event that you do go for it, you're less likely to have any issues or any critical issues with your transmission. And if you do, it will most likely not be critical and you won't go out of pocket. Then, of course, with electronics, like I said, electronics are going to give you issues over the long term, whether it be in a Chinese car, Korean, Japanese, German, you name it. So what's my final verdict? Do I think the Havaal is a car that one could possibly consider owning long term? And do I think it's a car that will not put you out of pocket in the event that you go out of a maintenance plan and a service plan? I think the answer is not binary in this case. I think Havaal, at least for me, it still needs to prove itself. They've shown that, you know what, they've improved. The previous H6 was, it was watered down. And you look at the current one, it's bold, it's stylish, it's amazing, it's packed with features. And even the performance, it's quite respectable. The Jolion, on the other hand, for me, I think, you know what, the quality of some of the materials is questionable, but then when you look at the pricing and you look at the segment that they're targeting, you'd expect that. So I think the Jolion is decent enough. The H9, I think, they bit off a bit more than they could chew, and they should just discontinue it. So with that being said, I think Havaal, it's definitely a brand to look out for. I think they're definitely going to be bringing out a lot of interesting models, a lot of models that will disrupt the market further. And of course, they'll continue offering incredible value for money. Ultimately, I think people will buy a car based on whether they think it will meet their needs and, of course, affordability. And when it comes to Havaal, I think the one concerning thing for me is the fact that they seem to do everything themselves. They make their own engine, they make their own transmission, they do their own electronics, and I mean, it's quite respectable, but you can't be a jack of all trades. And I think that's the one key thing here that has come out for me to say, but how can all these people do all those things? I mean, with the exception of the suspension, I think that's the only thing that I think they outsourced. Because when you look at all these other brands, they specialize in designing and building cars. They would build you an engine and they would go to ZF and outsource a gearbox, and they would go to McPherson to outsource suspension, and then in the when it comes to sound or sound system, some of these high-end brands would go to the likes of your Bose, your Harman Kardon, your Dyna Audio in the event with respect to your VW, and I can go on forever. So the question now becomes, what on earth makes Havaal different? How are they able to do everything in-house? And I think that's the one key thing that has come out of this, to say, perhaps that's the way that they've been able to bring costs down, because there's very little outsourcing there.